Because we value our community's rich past, the town of Kill Hills established a landmark designation program over 20 years ago to preserve structures that immortalize our history, including cottages and businesses. As part of the process, a detailed history of each structure and deed research are completed. A comprehensive designation report is reviewed by our town's Historic Landmark Commission and the State of North Carolina's Preservation Office. A public hearing is then conducted prior to a designation report being adopted by the Board of Commissioners and recorded by the Dare County Register of Deeds. We partner with owners of these historic structures to preserve the exterior history and architectural features which are significant and unique to our area. Let's look at some of these designated historic landmark properties and hear their stories. We hope you enjoy these highlights that show a glimpse into Kill Hills' past that started this wonderful community that we all enjoy today.
The Harris Cottage became ours in our family in 1933. My grandfather was a general store owner in Hertford here in North Carolina. Coming up on the Great Depression, he was able to keep the town of Hertford going pretty well with his general store. Everybody owed him and asked him, "Mr. Harris, how could we ever repay you for getting us through that?" And my mother used to come down with my grandma, would take my mother and others, and they'd have to drive here, drive back to Hertford, drive here, drive back to Hertford. And he said, "You want to repay me? Build me something down there so my wife will get off my back." So they did. When they were building it, and there's a bunch of shipwrecks out here, and as the story goes, the people from Hertford, the workers came down, they slept on the shipwreck while building this house. But in 1932, my grandfather, Zachariah Harris, and his son, Z.A. II, they came onto the Outer Banks on the south side, and the beach road wasn't even paved or anything yet. From my understanding, it was planks of wood or something. They'd get out and they'd walk from the car to the ocean, and my grandfather would count the steps. And this spot was the most amount of steps in 1932-3 when they were deciding to build here. So we were pretty impressed that my grandfather had that forethought that the ocean is moving. Nothing here is square. And that's no disrespect to those that built this house, but everything has settled. Everything is older. But the house itself, it's actually 4 bedrooms. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs and a bathroom. And downstairs, there's 1 bedroom that now has a bathroom with it. This house has seen a lot in 91 years now, and it's gone through so much, as I shared before. I look forward to the next generation sitting around this table, looking at that view, talking about all that's important to them, like we have done, like my uncles have done, and like my grandparents have done.
The Stick Small Cottage is one of the original Cape Cod-style structures located in Croatan Shores subdivision, dubbed Millionaire Row in the 1930s. This was the southernmost structure of the 5 houses that made up Millionaire Row. The house was built in 1939 at the pre-World War II price of $4,000. This structure was also designed by Frank Stick. Croatan Shores was one of the last subdivisions Frank Stick developed in Kill Hills before beginning his construction of the flat-top homes in Southern Shores. The house is a 2-story Cape Cod-style single-family dwelling. The structure consists of the original house with 1 later addition. The most recent addition, a 2-story addition on the north side with identical architectural features to the original, was completed in 2005. The structure has preserved its original pine flooring, brick fireplace and mantel, juniper paneling, interior doors and hardware, stairs and wood-stained front door. The hurricane shutters, both top-hinged and side-hinged, were typical of the era, particularly on the ocean front. The house was sold to R.A. Honey Robertson around 1939. In 1946, Robertson sold the home to the Small family. Frank Stick served as the real estate agent for the Robertson. The Small family has been the caretaker of the property for 60 years through 6 generations. The Stick Small house is one of the only 2 remaining Millionaire Row houses and the only one to retain its original color scheme. In the 1960s, Governor Luther Hodges and his family, and James Webb, head of NASA, vacationed in the house. Because of the structure's architecture and color scheme, it has been the subject of 2 well-known artists, Susan Wells Vaughn and Dennis Lightheart.
We've lived here for about 24 years now. We bought the house in 1999. It was originally just a summer cottage with the old interior as it is right now, basically. All the old pine tongue and groove. The house was originally built by a gentleman named Pappendick, which was in 1948. The Pappendicks would only come down in the summertime, and they originally bought the property back in the early 30s with their cousins. They bought 4 lots on the beach road here. The 4 lots that they bought, they paid $4,000 for. It's a 3-bedroom house, small living room, kitchen, 2 bathrooms. We took off the asbestos shingles and put cedar shake shingles on it, and then put old hurricane shutters on it and painted them red. The front door was painted red. The Pappendicks came back years later to look at the house after we'd been living in it, and was really taken back with the fact that we kept a lot of the old furniture. This table right here came from his original father's house. The back house was originally a garage for a house that was here previously, which got moved away. You can see where the front 2 garage doors are. That house was here before the bypass was. We have aerial pictures of it as it comes in with the Cypress house down the road. That house also has old tongue and groove cypress and juniper in it.
The Cherokee, now the Cypress House Inn, is the first commercial property designated as a local historic landmark. This structure is a 2-story clapboard dwelling with a simple gabled roof. There is a garage addition to the north side of the building. A hip-roofed porch wraps around the east and south sides of the structure. Walter Perry, the original owner, purchased the land for building and running a rooming house upon his retirement. Breakfast and dinner were served to guests, with Walter and Ruby Perry as the innkeepers. Mr. Perry did most of the cooking, with Miss Perry doing all of the baking. In 1967, the Perrys sold the rooming house to Ben and Catherine Ward, who operated it as a beach boarding house. In 1972, the property was sold to James and Linda Ward. They then sold it to W.O. Forrest Jr. and his wife, Judy K. Forrest, in 1977. Mr. and Miss Forrest sold the property to Robert and Phyllis Combs in 1978. Miss Combs painted the exterior of the house bright pink and renamed it Ye Olde Cherokee. In 1996, Miss Combs deeded the bed and breakfast to her son, Robert II, Kill Devil Hills Commissioner from July 2000 until December 2005, and his wife, Ellen Combs. Mr. Combs immediately painted the house blue and named it the Cherokee Inn. In 2005, the current owners, William and Vita Peters, purchased the bed and breakfast from Karen Faso and renamed it the Cypress House Inn. The house has had many owners and management styles, but has remained a lodge open to the public for 61 years. The original pine floors remain on the first and second floors. The cypress wall and ceiling covering remain in the majority of the first and the entire second floor.
This is the Owens Perry Cottage, which was built in 1946 by my grandfather, Milton Perry. He built it for my great-grandfather, L.B. Perry, who was a builder down here during the 1940s and 30s. And so when he had a stroke in 1942, my grandfather took this cottage, which was across the road from where it is now, and it was a storage shed. And he brought it across the road and turned it into a cottage so my great-grandfather and great-grandmother would have a place to come to the beach. And so it started on the ground, and it was just a small living room, kitchen, porch, and 1 bedroom. And as the family grew, they've added to it over the years. And in 1978, it was raised and we added some bedrooms downstairs. This house, we like to have it open. We do have air and heat now, but we don't use it unless we absolutely have to, because the porch, the screen porch, is a part of the house. It's like just another room of the house. And when I was growing up, that was the only dining room we had. So We couldn't eat inside, we didn't have enough room. When I was a child, we stayed here every summer. We came from Elizabeth City and spent all summer here. We didn't have any telephone or television. We didn't have a lot to entertain us except being outside, playing on the dunes. When the cottage was first built, it's all, upstairs is all heart pine, the floors and the walls. A lot of the original doors are in the cottage. There's some original furniture. When my mother and father married, my grandfather put a wall up in the living room to make it even smaller so they'd have another bedroom. And then when my parents started having children, they added a bedroom to the back. So there are now 3 bedrooms upstairs. And then as the grandchildren started coming and they lifted the cottage, they added 2 more bedrooms downstairs. So now we have 5 bedrooms. And at some points we'd have 17 people staying here. And we loved, we'd sleep on cots, sleep on the porch, whatever, just to be together.
The Green Cottage was built by the Brown family from Edenton in 1936. The house is a 5-bedroom house with 3 full baths. The Browns sold the property to the Cates from Edenton. In 1957, the Cates family and their heirs sold the property to Sylvia U. Green and N.C. Green from Williamston, North Carolina. It has been in this family ever since. They named the house Waterloo. The cottage has never been in a rental program. However, the family does allow friends and family to stay there in the summer months. The house was used as a summer cottage until the early 1990s, when Sylvia G. Smith, daughter of N.C. and Sylvia, began using the house in the off-season, particularly for holidays, because both of her daughters lived in the area, who are now the current owners. The exterior is, and always has been, covered with cedar shakes, with covered porches on a portion of the west side, the entire south side, and most of the east side. The original wood floors are intact throughout the house. The interior doors are original, as well as the tongue-and-groove paneling on the walls and ceiling throughout the house. The original fireplace and chimney are intact. When the Greens purchased the house in 1957, they added dormers, which tied into the existing roof, creating 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor. The kitchen, on the northeast corner of the house, was expanded and a portion of the covered deck was enclosed to create a dining area. The house was lifted to its current height in the early 1970s to avoid ocean overwash. This house is one of the best remaining examples of Outer Banks-style architecture built in the time period.
This is the Markland Cottage. It was built in 1954 by Robert Young, who also designed the Avalon community that we border. It is built in the Frank Stick style. It's a mere 624 square feet, but it is perfect for what it was originally built for, which was to be a vacation home for shipbuilders and their families. It was affordable. It is built with stucco over block, which kept it pretty cool in the summer with the windows open. It has a flat roof, which was originally tar and gravel. It has since been replaced with a new single-ply roof. The interior of the roof are these big juniper timbers that are awesome. When you come inside, we have tried to maintain, in addition to the glorious ceiling, things about it that are original. For instance, behind me, you will see the original kitchen cabinets, which are metal, and the original cast iron sink that has been coated in porcelain. The closets in this house are very simple, maybe 6 feet tall with an iron bar and a wood top. The side door behind me is still the original door. The original door on the front was also solid wood, but it had split panels in it. The glass was single pane and needed to be reglazed, and so I did keep the original door. I could not bear the idea of it going to the dump, and an artisan in Wanchese built for me an outdoor stand with that door using heart pine wood harvested from the property of Andy Griffith on Roanoke Island. One interesting historical fact about this house is that being built in 1954, it did endure and survive the Ash Wednesday storm of 1962. And given the utter destruction that that storm imposed on our little area of the world, that is amazing.
This oceanfront house was built in 1937 for Garland Gray from Sussex County, Virginia. Mr. Twine, a local builder, built the house. The house is a 4-bedroom house with 1.5 baths. The structure was bought by the Austin family in 1961 and has remained in the family for the past 49 years. The house is similar in design to the historic Nag's Head cottages because the builder, Mr. Twine, had constructed several of the Nag's Head homes. The exterior is covered with cedar shakes, with covered porches on a portion of the west side, the entire south side, and most of the east side. The wood shutters over the windows have always been a part of the structure. The interior doors are original, as well as the tongue and groove paneling on the walls and ceiling throughout the house. The original fireplace and chimney are intact. The Chambleys did most of the changes to the original structure, including enclosing a portion of the western deck to expand the kitchen. The Austins replaced the windows in the mid-1970s at the same time central heat and air conditioning were installed. This oceanfront house was built in 1935 for Emma C. Byram, married name Hobbs, from Edenton, North Carolina. She purchased the property for $150. Mr. Twine, a local builder, built the house with maid quarters and a garage. The house is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. The Hobbs sold the house to Stella Boyette, a widower with 3 grown children from Scotland Neck, North Carolina, in 1952. The Boyettes purchased the property for $9,500. The house has been in the Boyette family for the past 58 years. The house is similar in design to the historic Nag's Head cottages. The exterior is and always has been covered with cedar shakes, with covered porches on a portion of the west side, the entire south side, and most of the east side. The wood shutters over the windows and doors have always been part of the structure. The interior doors and hardware are original. The original tongue and groove paneling on the walls and ceiling is intact throughout the house. When the house was constructed, a separate maid's quarters was constructed on the northwest corner of the house, connected by a deck to the main house. The house was raised, in its original location, to its current height in early 1964 to avoid future storm surge by Mr. Hare of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. There have been some modifications to the house. Most were completed in 1985 when the Boyette expanded the south side of the house and under the house storage was constructed and an open deck was added on the west side. The majority of the work was by local builder Lucky Jordan. The windows were replaced in 2005 after central heating and air conditioning were installed in 2000.